Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Rico back at it again. You guys know how I like to rock. Play Troia. I need you to bounce in the background for me, man. There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Rico back at it again. Like, I'm playing this song for a reason. Because my man, listen, man. Jeff King, you guys already know Jeff King. Jeff King is a good buddy of mine. And here, time and time again, he'll play or he'll say a lyric. And I know exactly what he's talking about. And last night, Z-Bot, 24-year-old Z-Bot, thought this was Queen. And he was like, wait a minute, I don't know what's going on. And I was reading this. I was like, what is Z-Bot talking about? That young buck doesn't know. This is the type of jams that we jam to. And the point is, we're on the groove. We're on the move. Ain't no stopping us now. These Bills are rolling right now. It's free agency. That's on paper. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but it's nice for us to get excited in free agent period. It's nice for us to get excited in off season. You know how off season times be. It's slow. It's not really that fun, and it's coming to that point where things are starting to slow down in the second round, the second wave and third wave of free agency. Now you're like, there's a lot of who's. Who's that? Where do you play? Open up the Google, open up the YouTube, and start looking at highlights and film and so on and so forth. So it's about that time. But there are things that we need to address and we need to talk about. So welcome each and every one of you guys tuned in for the very first time. If you guys are here for the first time, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. It allows us to let you know when we are going live. And that's what we want at this point. So Terrence Blanton, Terrence Blanton, Z-Bot was definitely not outside. You know where he was? He was in the womb. He didn't know anything about that. He was not outside. I'll tell you that much. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another show, another edition of the Rico Report brought to you by the Buffalo Fanatics. I'll be joined by some wonderful guests. You guys already know this face here. This is my man, Clay Troia. Let me bring in my man, Clay. Clay, what it do, man?
How's it going, man? Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. Off of fresh, you look fresh. You look refreshed. You look vibrant.
Thank you. Yeah, just got back from the barber too, so it's perfect timing.
Oh, you got cleaned up. I like that, man. Listen, man, you have been seeing and reading a lot of the things that Bills Mafia has been talking about, and it'll be some of it is outdated, but it's always good to get your thoughts and opinions on a lot of things that's going on. So Clay will be joining us, and we'll chopping it up and talking about some good stuff. And I'll also be joined by my man Lawrence Owen. If you guys aren't familiar with Lawrence Owen, he's been on the show multiple times, and he's a big Colts fan. He's a representative of the Colts, and he talks all things Colts, and he is elated right now. I'm sure he's super happy because it was doom and gloom for a moment.
How you not know who Luther Vandross is?
Listen, some people just they're not aware. They weren't outside. They weren't outside. Clay's a young buck himself, so I don't know if Clay knew that track himself. Did you know that one?
I knew the song, but I wouldn't have been able to tell you who it was. I definitely wouldn't have said Queen though. So.
That's for sure. That is for damn sure. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show. We'll be joined actually a little later by my man Evan. You guys already know young Evan. Evan is he loves the game and loves to chop it up with us. So he'll be joining us in a moment. So, folks, let's get into what we wanted. I mean, there's a few things I want to talk about, but I got to get into a hot topic. There was a tweet put out by a Bills content creator in the name of, a lot of you guys know Joe Marino. He has the TDN app where you can go ahead and jump in and really dive in as your team's GM and pretty much draft your players. He had a tweet yesterday that kind of had me rolling a little bit. And Clay, I need you to help me out with this one. Lawrence, you might feel some type of way with this one. So we'll get into it. But before we do, I got to give a big shout out to my man, Michael Burton. Comes out of nowhere from the left field, comes in with a big super chat. Michael, listen, let me give you that bing, bing, biggity, bing. Let's go. I appreciate that love right off the bat. That's how you get the show started. So here was the tweet by Mr. Marino, because I'll say this, man, it had me for a trip, and I'm gonna need your help on this one, fellas. So 12 teams. He named 12 teams that are probably gonna be in contention to make the playoffs. However, 5 of these teams are not going to make it. 5 of these teams are not going to make it, and I had a hard time really going through this, and I'm going to need your help. I'm trying to scroll through so I can find where I put it here. But division winners. Let's talk about the division winners in the AFC. Can we say the AFC East? Most likely, I'd say 90% chance it's the Bills. I'll give a 10% chance to whoever. Things happen. 90% chance we'll say the Bills.
You could probably go higher than 90 if you want. I don't think anyone's going to complain about that one.
Yeah, you know what? Let's go 99%. 99% we'll say we'll get 1% chance something happens, right? 99% we'll say Bills win that AFC East. Now here's where things get a little muddy. Let's go to AFC North. Do we see the Bengals repeating as the division champs? Actually, I don't even think they won. Did they win the division? Because I don't know.
I can't remember, honestly. I can't
remember either. But the point is, we know that they went to the Super Bowl and they were damn close. Could we see the Bengals coming away with the division win in the North?
I mean, in my opinion, I don't know. I think the North is going to be one of the tougher divisions to make it through on. I don't know if they're going to be able to even get a wild card team through. So whoever wins that division is probably going to be the only one that makes it. And I think it's going to be really, really close between them and the Ravens. So it's really, really tough to say on which team's just going to have a better overall season. But I mean, like you said, there's so many teams on that list that I think that might be one of the divisions where only one of those teams makes it.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. Listen, you threw me for a loop with your tweet today. So your response just now kind of threw me for a loop because I was like, okay, somebody's got to come out of that one because I call that division the black and blue division. I mean, people have known that to be the black and blue division because you're getting beat up by the time you make it to the playoffs. I had the Bengals winning the division, and the Ravens not making it. Actually, you know what? You're pretty bang on. And the Browns not making it only because we don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson.
That's my thinking as well.
For sure. Deshaun Watson plays. I mean, I don't know how long they're going to get him a suspension. I mean, I'm sure he's going to suffer a suspension, whether it be 6, 8 games, 12 games, who knows, right? But any games that he misses, it's not looking good for the Browns. So I have the Bengals coming away with that one and the Ravens not making enough. I don't think they did enough this offseason for them to jump in. Lawrence, your thoughts on the North? What are you feeling, man?
Yeah, a lot of basis on Watson. If Watson plays, if Watson plays 12 plus games, they win the division.
It's possible, dude. Listen, it's a tough one, man. So you would let's say Deshaun Watson doesn't play. Let's just assume he's suspended for a significant amount of time because he's going to be tied up for a bit with all these civil cases that are going up against him.
In that case, I probably go with the Bengals. I got the Ravens coming in last.
Really? I have them eliminated, but last. That's
last. I think that Pittsburgh's defense is still nasty. I think the Ravens have got a lot of turnover that they're going to be going through with that team, especially with age on the defense. You know, guys that ain't there this year that were there last year, the previous year. You know, like Calais Campbell and guys like that are not going to be on that team. I don't know if Lamar Jackson can do it all by himself. You know, that's the thing. I like what the Bengals have offensively. They've went out and really aggressively attacked that offensive line this year for good reason. And I think, like I said, Pittsburgh, they've got some game managing quarterbacks that they've got sitting there.
They do.
And I'm going to have to shut up for a second because you need to talk about that one.
That's my man, Lawrence. Let me get my man Truth to Hearts, and I'm going to jump in on Jeff King. Truth to Hearts says Watson might not get suspended. I've been hearing that last year might be considered time served. I've been thinking about that too. Like he didn't play all of last year, but it was a team decision. I think they made that decision ahead of whatever the league was going to do, and I think it was the safest thing to do because if you tried to play him or not, it would have been backlash regardless. So I think it was more of a team decision, not an NFL decision. This is going to be an NFL decision. So I think he's still going to serve some time. Will they consider him not playing last season part of suspension? I have no idea, but he can't go unscathed. People will lose their minds. They definitely will.
And I think the Browns fully expect a suspension as well because of how they restructured his contract and made that $1 million salary because that's where the suspension money would come out of. So
for sure. That's exactly what's going to happen, man. I'm telling you right now, it's bleak. He's out of the tall woods, but he's still in some hot fire. I'll tell you that right now. So shout out to my man Jeff, mother effing King. I just can't do that. I gotta get in flames as well. Jeff King comes in and says, Lawrence O, much respect. Finally got a chance since luck with Matty Ice. But with all due respect to you and the rest of the league, the shit is out. The shit is ours this year. You can have the year after that. Let's effing go, Buffalo. Jeff King comes in with a big super chat, and he ain't talking lies, man. Those are some truthful things he's saying. So I'm totally with that. So I have Steelers making playoffs. I like the fact that they bring Mitch Trubisky in here. I like Tomlin's chances. The Pittsburgh Steelers, I mean, they're always in contention, always. And when you have Tomlin as your head coach, you always have an opportunity. And a younger, more mobile quarterback in Mitch Trubisky, I'm not saying he's a world beater, but I mean, I don't know, man. This division is just tough. But you have a good defense. You have good coaches. Flores joins that squad, so you're gonna have a very disciplined defense. So I'm going on a limb and saying Steelers can squeeze out of that one. Let's go to the South. Let's go to the AFC South, man. Listen, I'm giving the Titans a division, right? The reason I give them the division is King Henry's coming back. He's gonna be healthy, and I'm just going by the top dog. That's who the Titans are, and they had a very good year. Colts now have Matty Ice. Does that make a difference for you, Clay? Does Matty Ice make a difference, or are the Titans still winning this division?
It makes a difference for sure. I mean, before you didn't have anyone throwing the football back there, worth his salt. But yeah, Matt Ryan, I mean, he's an experienced quarterback. He doesn't have the kind of arm strength that he used to have. I mean, he's never really had a strong arm, that strong of an arm to begin with. But he's an experienced veteran. He has so much experience in this league. He's a former MVP. I mean, people forget how well he can play if he's got the right offensive coordinator and he's in the right system. He's a really good football player. And I think people just kind of forget that because of how terrible that supporting cast around him has been in Atlanta. So it makes a huge difference. And for me, when they made that move, it kind of shifted. I think they're going to fight for the division. I think they are going to be able to compete for that division win. But for me, that they're kind of one of those fringe teams that's going to be fighting hard for one of those wild card spots. And I think they're going to be one of the ones that really has a good chance of making it in.
Is Matty Ice Hall of Famer? That's a tough one.
I don't think so. I don't think so. If he won that Super Bowl and went to the Colts and won another one, then maybe. But even still, that's tough.
Lawrence, talk to me on these Colts, because these Colts were looking like we're in rebuild mode. I know I'm sure a lot of your Colts fans were like, "Oh, we're in rebuild mode. I hate this." And then they go out and take away Matty Ice. Now, before Matty Ice, were you even interested in having Matty Ice, or did you want Baker Mayfield? Or were you looking for Jimmy G to come through?
Oh, no, I did not want Jimmy G.
No, not one bit.
The limitations on Jimmy G is just too unsurmountable for me to want for a long period of time. I was a Baker Mayfield guy. I thought that he had long-term high ceiling potential. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's what I was looking at. I'm tired of having a different quarterback year after year after year after year. We're not the Cleveland Browns. We're the Indianapolis Colts. Okay. So here's
it's tough, man.
But I like Matt Ryan. I thought Matt Ryan is a very good quarterback on a really bad team. Okay. When he had somewhat of a supporting cast with a really young, opportunistic defense and some guys to throw to and a halfway decent running game,
right,
they made it to the Super Bowl, and he won MVP during that year when he had that. And then they haven't had anything like that since. They've been utter garbage on defense, and their wide receivers have slowly just kind of trickled away. So, and they haven't had a run game since I can't even remember. So I like Matty Ice on the Colts. He was my number 2.
Listen, you guys have a legitimate chance with Matty Ice, and the edge you guys have is obviously at quarterback when it comes to who's our quarterback, Tannehill with the Titans. But the Titans just have a very good coach, and Frank Wright is no slouch. But Vrabel, man, that boy can coach his ass off. So I got to give the edge to the Titans. Now, last but not least, to me, I don't know if you guys pay attention to soccer, especially when the World Cup comes around. There's always that group. They call it the group of death, right? Where there's 4 teams where you're like, why did the simulators put those freaking teams together, having like Brazil, Argentina, and who knows, and 2 other teams that you want to put in there. But anyway, group of death. the group of death for me, it obviously is the AFC West, man. That thing is crazy. You got the Chiefs, the Raiders, the Chargers, the Broncos. I don't think the Broncos make it this year. That's just me. What are your thoughts on Clay? Talk to me, man. What are your thoughts on that?
It's a really tough one because you don't really know how everyone's gonna mesh with each other. There's new coaching in Denver, so I don't think you can rely as much maybe on that defense without the coaching that they had. That's why their defense was so effective. I mean, they have a lot of good pieces, but I mean, to me, I think you have to say that obviously the Chiefs are going to make it, but with those other three teams,
Yes.
Any two of the, I think two other teams, I think from that division will make the playoffs.
Agreed.
But to say who it is just such a toss up because I feel like it's really just going to come down to those week 18 games. I mean, look at the Raiders Chargers game last year where that's what it came down to. And the Chargers blew it. And, one play different, one decision different, and maybe they tie and they both go. But yeah, it's just, that's going to be the closest division. And really, I don't even know if you can predict who the Chiefs might not even win that division for all that we know, because it's so competitive. They might end up losing a couple of those division games. And if you lose within the division, it costs you at the end of the season. So it's just that actually is a completely crazy division. It shouldn't be. They should break it up. They should break it up, put half those guys in the NFC, not the NFC West either, because that's a good division as well. But like, you gotta break those teams up somehow, man.
I will say, man, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at how they've constructed their teams. You've got the Raiders. They went out and paid big money to Crosby. They went out and got Chandler Jones. For what reason? You know exactly for what reason. To get after Pat Mahomes. You saw what the Bengals did to Pat Mahomes. They contained them, but put pressure on him. Like, it was just a very well put together game plan for Pat Mahomes. This league is a copycat league. We've seen the success you've had against this team, and that's what we're going to do. So we went ahead and got our pass rush. You go over to the Chargers, you got Khalil Mack, for crying out loud, and you got Bosa. So good luck, Pat Mahomes. It's flattering for him, I'm sure. He's like, look at you guys. You guys got to do all that to come after little old me. Well, little old you, you guys have been making the playoffs and winning the division for the last freaking 4 or 5 years, for crying out loud. So they got no choice. So to me, I have the Broncos just not making it. I think it's going to take some time for Wilson to gel. Not that Wilson's not a bomb player. I think it's just going to take some time to gel. Lawrence, talk to me, man. That AFC West, that group of death, division of death. What are your thoughts, man?
And don't forget, I mean, Derek Carr put that team on his shoulders after the season that Raiders had. I mean, he pulled off some amazing stuff. And now not only does he have Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow to throw to, but he's got Devontae freaking Adams.
I'm telling you, man. And I didn't even say that name yet. So,
wow. I mean,
Josh Jacobs running the rock. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Darren Waller.
The Raiders might be a sleeper team this upcoming season. I really do believe that.
Isn't it crazy to call them a sleeper team, though?
Yeah, I think so. Because you look at the rest of the division and go, what the heck?
Yeah.
You automatically look at Kansas City and go, well, obviously they might not win the division. They might not make the playoffs. It depends upon their defense. What type of defense is going to show up next year? Are we going to have that defense that we saw earlier in the season, or are we going to have the defense that we saw later in the season?
Heck yeah.
You don't know. So, because all 4 teams have firepower on both sides of the ball, and it's all about passing it too. It's all about getting to the passer and throwing the football. So,
Good luck.
Yeah. These 4 teams are going to beat each other up all season.
Well,
honestly,
go ahead, Clay.
I was just gonna say, honestly, if there was one team that I had to pick that I think is most likely to miss out, I'd have to say the Chargers, and it hurts to say it because they have such a good roster, and I love Herbert. I think he's a fantastic quarterback. I love Staley. He's a genius. I love the defensive scheme that he runs. It's so creative, but I don't know, man. They just don't have it. They can't seem to win those big games that they need to win in order to make it happen. And I tweeted it out a little bit, but I think Derek Carr has a legitimate chance to be in the MVP conversation 3/4 of the way through the season, throwing to, his old college teammate, Devontae Adams. He's a really, really good quarterback. People just forget about him and don't notice him as much. Because of that division and how stacked it is. But I think that team is going to be really scary.
let's not forget Derek Carr was in that MVP. He was on the path to MVP until what? I think what did he hurt? He hurt his AFC in the ACL. What did he do to himself? We hurt him. I think he hurt his leg. I can't remember.
He broke his leg. I think
he broke his leg. That's what it was. But anyway, he was on his way to MVP. He was having such a phenomenal season, and we might see him back there again. Man, the AFC is the wild freaking AFC, man. It's disgusting. It's crazy. And what a wild season it's going to be. So this is a Bills channel, so we got to get right into Bills talk. But I'm going to get because Clay's going to be on with us for a little bit longer. So I got to get into his tweet because it threw me for a freaking loop. First of all, I'm not capping. I'm being for real. So right now, Bills are looking at this roster. And I know, Lawrence, you pay attention to the whole league and you've been paying attention to the Bills. So you're familiar. So there's not a lot of glaring holes on this team. I think we're pretty solid across the board. The one weakness you would say would probably be the cornerback position, right? A weakness you could say a couple years back was always our defensive line, the trenches. We addressed it. So here comes a tweet from Clay saying, hey, wait a minute now. In 2021, we double dipped and we went defensive end, right? 2 times in a row, back to back. Could it be in 2022 that we go cornerback? And I was like, hold up. If we're bold enough to go double dipping in the defensive end category, why wouldn't Beane go double dipping in the cornerback room? Because right now we haven't addressed the corner room at all. We haven't brought anybody in. We let Levi Wallace walk. I'm pretty sure they're confident in Dane Jackson, but you're not just going to hand the keys to Dane Jackson and say you're going to be cornerback 1 when the season begins, because we already know Trey White's not going to be 100% ready for season opening. I mean, unless barring some miraculous events, he might be missing some time. So, what made you even tweet that, Clay? First and foremost, explain yourself, sir.
I mean, honestly, it was just because of the signings that Beane was doing, and he had made some signings. He got Von Miller, and that was like awesome. At that point, we had already had some big interior defensive linemen signed, so it's like, we're good there. He still went and got Jordan Phillips and Shaq Lawson the next day anyway. But we're good for that. And so then after all these moves where he's, stacking up this defensive line, he's not signed a quarterback through any of it. And I know a lot of people on Twitter have been wanting them to go after Dante Jackson, which I was also a big fan of. But yeah, it's just not happening. It doesn't seem to be happening. And now I don't think they have any cap space left after all the moves that they've made to do anything. I don't think they have any wiggle room. They're going to probably be scratching their heads after the draft picks, figuring out how they're going to pay them. Yeah, it just made me think that, hey, they're not afraid to double dip. We saw them do it last year. And I think it's really going to be about if there's a guy that they liked enough that he falls a little bit further than they thought, they might even trade up. Honestly, I could see them trading up in the second round to get a corner that fell a little bit. So even if they were to draft a corner in the first round, I could see them trading up a few picks to get a corner if one slips. And I'll show you my list. This is my list. I don't know if you guys can see it. This is the list of corners that I think could go in the top 3 rounds. And so, I mean, there's a huge list to choose from, and it's because it's so deep in corners. I think that it could be a possibility that, hey, if that guy's there, why not take him?
Okay, so I'm so glad you went and showed me that list, because I'm not familiar with a lot of the corners. I know the top corners. Sauce Gardner, I can't believe that name. That's
a great name.
That is a fantastic name. So you got Sauce Gardner, you got Stingley, I believe, you got Booth.
Yep.
A lot of those guys are going to be gone maybe before the 21st, 22nd pick.
Yeah.
This is where it starts to get a little tough. So give me 2 or 3 names that Bills fans should be looking into, myself included, at the cornerback position.
Yeah, I mean, beyond the ones that you said, and obviously Trent McDuffie's been a big name. Right. Oh man. Yeah. Just from the names on my list. I mean, Darian Kendrick is a guy that's probably not going to be, up in the early picks. He's probably going to be a little bit later. Kyler Gordon from Washington. It was a pretty good one. Storm Duck, mostly just for the name, but like that's that adds a little bit of value to it, because especially since we already got a wild goose, we need a duck to go along with it as well. But yeah, but Roger McCreary too is a guy that I really like, and I'm kind of hoping that he ends up slipping. He's out of Auburn, so yeah, Gordon as well. who's that? Yeah, Kyler Gordon out of Washington. Yeah, he's I like the way that he plays. But yeah, all those are guys that I'm gonna dip into the film to a little bit more in depth because I haven't really checked them out as much as I want to yet. And I'll probably get some film out on them just to see how to rank them. But yeah, because the field is so deep in corners, it's a good year to do it.
It is a fantastic year. So there was some breaking news. I just wanted to touch on that. The Dolphins are making moves, man. They brought in big tackle, I believe tackle Teron Armstead, up to $87 million, $43 million guaranteed. Lawrence, talk to me, man. How big of a move is this for the Dolphins?
Oh, it's huge.
Especially for Tua.
It's huge. Tua was running for his freaking life last year. Come on now. He definitely they still need to go out and get more pieces, but the thing is though, Teron's a left tackle. That's not Tua's blind side. He's left-handed.
You're not going to move Teron to the right.
No. You need to have a solid right tackle for Tua. So, I mean, that's how I see it. But at the same time, I mean, you get a chance to get somebody who is a stud on the offensive line, you go and you take it. I mean, right. That it is what you don't get premier left tackles in the NFL very often. I mean, they're very few and far between. So if you got an opportunity and you were able to top Teron Armstead and you're coming, good for you.
I'm big on that. Listen, Lawrence, before you get out of here, I got to get your opinion on this because you've seen the moves that the Bills have made. I mean, we made a small move with Von Miller. Not a big deal. Nobody's really talking about that right now. But Von Miller coming through, Tim Settle. We brought in O.J. Howard, Otarius Jabari Howard. I have to get that name down pat. I mean, dude, we made some waves. Brandon Beane. Give me your thoughts on this. The moves that Brandon Beane has made, and where do you see this? Like, are we Super Bowl bound? Like a lot of people are talking about. Are we the favorites? Just based on paper?
In my opinion, yes. But in my opinion, you were Super Bowl bound last year too. But you were a coin flip away, right. In my opinion. But no, there's only one thing that I think that is really got me flipped for a lid. You signed Duke Johnson and Greg Mintz. I mean, come on. Right. You could do better in that area. I think you need to upgrade your run game.
Is Jonathan Taylor available? You think you can swing something over there? Chocolate's out of here.
Pretty sure that the table has been flipped at this point.
Absolutely.
No, but Marlon Mack just went to the Texans and did a tryout. Go get him.
Listen. I
like Marlon Mack too.
We do. But problem is, and you know it damn well, very much. Marlon Mack has a hard time staying on the field, and that is problematic. I mean, I would still throw something.
Duke Johnson don't.
But Duke Johnson. I mean, listen, man. Listen. I think honestly, JD Mckissic pulling that U-turn really threw Beane. Beane had a plan and God was like, nah, fam, that plan is not out. It's not in the plans for you. So you gotta remix. You know what I mean? Omaha. You gotta change things up now. And I guess they changed it up to Duke Johnson. I'm not mad at Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson can still play.
He can still play. He's not going to be a top 15 running back, but he could play football. I personally, you talked about the double dipping on the cornerback. I would not be surprised if they use one of their first two picks on a running back or an offensive lineman.
Do you know that I have been, I'm not saying I've been going get a running back in the first round, but I'm not mad if they do. I would not be, because at the end of the day, all boards are put, every team's got a board. They've got rankings for certain players. If my RB is higher than my cornerback, I'm not going to go to cornerback just because I don't want to take an RB in the first round. I'm going to take my best player available. And if that's an RB, it happens to be an RB. And I've seen mock drafts that have the Bills taking an RB, saying that's just the move that puts them over the edge. So we'll see how that plays out. Lawrence, one last question before we get out of here, because I know you got to get out of here first. Give me your prediction on how these Colts will fare with new quarterback in place. Is it going to be a learning curve for a lot of these guys, him getting acclimated to the team, or will it jive and have you guys in contention? I don't know if he's frozen or he's just
I think he might have froze.
I did for just a split second.
I thought you were so perplexed with my question. You're like,
my internet was acting up there for a second. My apologies. No, Matt Ryan's a veteran quarterback. I think he's going to come in and be a leader and use this off season to get to acclimate with the guys around him. Don't forget the Colts went out and got Yannick Ngakoue to go beside DeForest Buckner and Kwity Paye. So, they increased their defense as well. So I really do believe that Indy will be fine.
Yeah.
Indy will be a lot. And we still got plenty of room when it comes to cap space because
you do.
Well, I mean, we got like 16 million, but we got so many contracts that could be restructured to free up a lot because Ballard hardly ever restructures, so he's got plenty of room by the way he structures those contracts in the first place to move it around.
Maybe you'll make enough room for Julio Jones.
There's a lot of talk about Honey Badger coming.
That's a good move.
There's a lot of talk about oh my goodness, there's talk about OBJ, there's talk about as you said, Julio. I don't know
on the Colts. I don't know if I like that.
I don't know on who
for Odell to go to the Colts. I don't know if I like that.
I would be okay with it if his medicals show up that he's not going to miss the first half of the season due to the injury. If he misses 4 games, fine. Don't miss 8 or 9.
No, I hear you on that one. Well, listen, man, Lawrence. If you guys aren't familiar with Lawrence, listen, go and follow my man, Lawrence Owen. He is Colts_law on Twitter. And he does great work, film study, all that good stuff, man. The guy's a jack of all trades, I'll tell you. So go ahead and follow my man, Lawrence Owen. And Lawrence, thanks for tuning in. Obviously, I gave you a shout, and you came through like you always do, man. And we'll definitely be collabing soon, man.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, man. Clay, what up, man? So it's as Lawrence heads out, Evan comes in. What's up, Ev?
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Listen, man, we're just about to get into the nitty-gritty of stuff, man. All right. Listen, we just signed a very big, to me, I really like the signing of Jamison Crowder. I'm a big fan of Jamison Crowder. Clay, is it pretty much like you just replaced Cole Beasley with Jamison Crowder? It's the same thing? Or do we have an edge in Jamison Crowder? And this is where I wanted to get your idea on this. So is there an edge with having that, or did we downgrade? What are your thoughts?
I don't think we downgraded necessarily. The skill set's maybe a little bit different. I do think Jamison Crowder is good. I think he's a good slot receiver. He can get open. He's always someone that when we're playing the Jets, it's always a guy that I would want to watch out for because he's sneaky good. People don't really, wouldn't really pay a lot of attention to him. I even liked him back in his Redskin days.
Yes.
Back when he was, because I remember him being, kind of a little bit of a firework over there. And he was exciting to watch, but I don't think, it's not a 1-for-1 replacement because I think Crowder has a little bit more shiftiness. He can maybe do a little bit more run after catch, not quite as much as he used to be able to when he was younger, but he's still got that ability, and at least more so than Cole Beasley, who's a catch and fall type of a guy. So I do think there's maybe a little bit of an edge in that aspect. I don't think he's quite as good at getting open as Cole Beasley was. He was a master at his craft in finding that open space and even in man coverage and in getting guys going the wrong direction. But I do think that he's still solid. And in the system that the Bills are going to be running, at least what we think they're going to be running, those zone lanes are going to be opening up pretty big because people are going to be worried about a lot of other pass catchers.
That is a great point. That you make a good point because he may not be the route tactician that Cole Beasley was, but he does bring other elements to the game. Like he can run himself open. And that's a lot of what the Jets did with him when he was, again, passes thrown to him by Sam Darnold, even was it Mike White, even old man who's a Flacco for crying out loud. So he's got a knack for getting himself open differently. So I'm actually looking forward to that. Like we have our slot now, Evan. I know a lot of people were big fans of, and this is Amy Wagner just said it, man. He's a yak monster, man. I love the fact that Yak is that's my middle name. If you can get Yak and you can make work happen, I'm great with that. Now, a lot of people do feel some type of way because when they signed Isaiah McKenzie, they thought Isaiah McKenzie was going to be slotted as a slot. I never thought that. I just thought that they just signed to keep him, obviously for the purposes of having someone that can do a lot, stretch plays, get back in the backfield, you know what I'm saying, return punts, maybe if they even allow him to have that opportunity to do it again. But I never really saw him as the guy that's going to be the third slot. Are you in the camp of, man, I really wanted them to really focus on Isaiah McKenzie being the slot guy? Are you in that camp?
I was never really in the Isaiah McKenzie camp of him being the number one slot receiver on this roster. But, you know, what Clay mentioned about Jamison Crowder basically kind of touched up on all the details that Jamison Crowder can bring to this offense. And I think something we were missing out of the slot was the ability to go downfield and the ability to have yards after the catch from the slot position. That is something we just haven't had over the past couple of years. Now, Cole Beasley, you know, has some of the most receptions by a slot receiver over the last 2 seasons, comparable to Cooper Kupp with the reception mark. But again, you know, you're getting a guy in Jamison Crowder who isn't the same player he was a couple years ago, but he's kind of that middle meat with Isaiah McKenzie and Cole Beasley. He's kind of in the middle. You know, he's got the burning ability that Isaiah McKenzie has, and he has the, you know, technical side to what Cole Beasley can bring you. You know, he's not what Cole Beasley is in the route running department, and he's not Isaiah McKenzie with the burning speed, but he's just a nice middle. And again, Jamison Crowder can go downfield. He's very shifty. He can really do everything you need in a slot receiver. I don't think he's going to be a guy who's going to go out and catch 90 balls for us, but he's going to be a nice slot receiver to really, you know, coast by this year. And, you know, I really like the move, but I still think the Bills are going to go after a receiver in day 1 or day 2 in the draft.
Oh my God, you just gave me day 1, day 2. All right, well, listen, we're going to get into that. Duke Johnson, him coming to the squad right now as a shifty back, can catch out of the backfield because he does a lot of good things. Your thoughts, Clay, I'm going to jump on you. Your thoughts with us, this running back room, right? Devin Singletary, very solid back. Zach Moss, who knows what's going on with Zach Moss and what they have in store for him. Who knows what we're going to do in the draft? Are we going to go first, second round, maybe third round as a running back, right? What are your thoughts on the acquisition of Duke Johnson and the state of the running back room?
Yeah, I mean, to me, them signing Duke Johnson is very Brandon Beane. He loves his cheap veteran running backs. He's done it, I think, just about every year he's been here, really. Whether it's Chris Ivory, Frank Gore, Matt Breida, there's another guy, TJ Yeldon. He loves these guys. These are huge signings for him every offseason. And to me, I think what it says is I don't think he feels a need to go out and get a running back in the early round of a draft because he signed a guy who could take some reps away from Devin Singletary, who at the end of the season was playing like a number 1 back. So he can get some reps. He's got a little bit more power than Singletary. He can run through guys a little bit more consistently, maybe. And he's great catching out of the backfield, which is exactly what you need out of any running back that's going to be in this system because you have to bring those linebackers up, and dumping the ball off to the running backs is the best way to do that. So yeah, I mean, and frankly, I am very much in the camp of don't pay running backs, don't draft running backs early. I know that you're not a fan of hearing that, but from a business and financial standpoint, you can't be spending too much money on those running backs because their value drops so fast. You know, they lose one step and that's it, man. They're just not the same running back that they used to be. And because of that, giving them second contracts and drafting them in the early rounds can take up a lot of cap space that you could be using on someone that's got a little bit more longevity.
So let me ask you a question then. With that said, knowing what you know about, pick your favorite running back right now. Let's say Jonathan Taylor. Knowing that you have a Jonathan Taylor right now available at the 25th pick, you would, because of your thought process, you'd say, "No, I'm not going to do that because of the financial ramifications later on. I'm not doing it." Would you skip out on a Jonathan Taylor if you know you had a Jonathan Taylor in talent?
I think if I knew the guy was going to be amazing, like, yeah, go ahead and take him. But I think also, you know, not every running back that's picked in the first round is the best running back in that draft. I would say a lot of the times, maybe 50% of the time, it's a guy from the second or third round that ends up being the best back or ends up being just as good as those backs that were drafted up in the first round. I mean, look at Aaron Jones is a beast. I think he was a 4th rounder. Devin Singletary's playing like a starter. He's a 3rd rounder. There are tons of these guys. Dalvin Cook was a 2nd rounder. These are like top tier guys in the league at the running back position. Yeah, Alvin Kamara. Wasn't Alvin Kamara a 4th rounder? I
Yeah,
mean,
Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb are both second rounders as well.
yeah, these are the best running back names in the league, and none of them were first rounders. So I mean, to me, it kind of proves that you don't need to do it in the first round. You can get a top tier guy in the second round if you just wait a little bit. Maybe, if you want to trade up in the second round, sure, but the first round, it just doesn't usually make sense to me because of that uncertainty and because you can get value elsewhere.
Well, listen, I like that. I like that idea too. Don't get me wrong. I've seen some really good backs that we can get late in the rounds, and they're solid. Max Borgia being one of them. I really like his style of play, and I'm really loving Rashad White as well. So I just love me the running backs. I'm just more if somebody's there that you can take and it just makes sense. I can't see Beane not doing it. I mean, especially because he had interest in those running backs last year. But anyway, that being said, Mr. on the bottom here talked about taking a receiver with the first round. I need to understand this premise of taking a receiver in the first round, because that receiver would essentially become pass catcher number 4, right? Because Diggs will get opportunity first, followed by Diggs, followed by Dawson Knox / Jamison Crowder / OJ Howard. And then, I mean, I'm not saying OJ Howard's going to be above it, but drafting a receiver in the first, I mean, especially with the amount of receivers that we can get second and third, wouldn't that fall in the same category as a running back? Wouldn't you just try to focus on maybe offensive line, especially Ryan Bates flapping in the wind right now? Evan, answer that, sir.
Yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from with the offensive line, but in my opinion, just the receivers that have been falling within the draft over the last couple of years and have been like boom players right out the gate, at the receiver position. Obviously, a guy like Justin Jefferson at the 22 spot. We have the 25th pick. It's right around there. And I know you're not going to be able to hit on guys like Justin Jefferson all the time.
Right.
And there's been a plethora of players like, you found your DK Metcalfs, your T Higgins. I mean, Jamar Chase went early, but, just again, these first round receivers that have really been booming over the past few years. I just kind of want to get on that train. And I feel like this receiving class is really talented. And there's a lot of depth there to be found at the 25 spot. And I wouldn't be surprised if they did it. I'm not, totally for it. Like I wouldn't be against it if we did it. Yep, I still think we can go find another capable veteran receiver in free agency to kind of, fill out the depth on this receiving depth chart. And again, like I think we probably should go get another offensive lineman to compete for a starting spot on this team, because with the uncertainty of Ryan Bates coming back or not. But again, like if there's a talented receiver there at 25, don't be shocked if Brandon Beane pulls the trigger and wants to hop on that. The highest we've drafted receiver under the Sean McDermott era was Zay Jones in 2017.
We traded up. Didn't we trade up for Zay Jones too?
Yeah, we did trade up. Now Brandon Beane wasn't part because Brandon Beane technically wasn't the GM at that point. But just don't be surprised if Brandon Beane would want to hop on the receiver market. In the draft.
I've seen enough of this in the chat, so I'm going to have to bring it up. My man John DeFazio says, "Hey, I don't get why McKenzie doesn't get the respect at receiver. Turn the film on. He makes plays against man and zone and has more yak than any other receiver on the team." Clay, that's a tough one. I'm gonna send that to Clay. Clay, why doesn't McKenzie? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
doesn't McKenzie get the love that he's supposed to get at the receiver position?
That's the problem. I don't have an answer for that question, because I kind of agree. Where I think McKenzie has the ability to be used more and used more effectively. And we've seen in situations where they try to get the defense in an uncomfortable matchup. Look at the Patriots game where Isaiah McKenzie, had his career high in yards and he had like 19 catches that game. Like it felt like every pass went Isaiah McKenzie's way that game. And it was because they had him in man-to-man in the slot against a corner that just couldn't keep up with him. And he used that speed on the deep crossers and got open. The Bills love running that deep crosser, that scheme. So really, I don't know why they don't utilize him more often, but it feels like there's always one game a season where it's the Isaiah McKenzie game, and he gets 2 touchdowns and 100 yards receiving and 10 catches, but it's just one game, and he beyond that he'll maybe get like 10 catches the entire rest of the season. I don't really understand it, but I think it might just be there's not enough passes to go around, and you got a lot of guys that you can throw to. There's more versatile guys out there like Gabe Davis who can go deep and catch a 75-yard bomb, but he can also line up in the wing and he can be a wham blocker for you. Isaiah McKenzie just doesn't have that kind of versatility as a wide receiver, as opposed to someone else who could be out there maybe doing it a little bit different.
And here's another thing. Here's another thought as well. And I'm looking at Brian Dable gone, so that air raid offense that we once knew maybe continues, or maybe it doesn't. We have a new offensive coordinator with the signing of OJ Howard. Does that change how we're going to do things? Right? Are we now more 12 personnel team? Are we like, is this? I mean, and then with the signing of Crowder, it kind of throws me off. I'm like, what route are we going? Are we just going to be just a multiple team? What are your thoughts on the OJ Howard signing? Does that change anything, or is it just like, that's just depth? We're just getting another guy and that's it. Or does that become a factor?
Yeah, I think I can touch it. Yeah, I'll touch on this really quick. Obviously, last year the Buffalo Bills ran 12 personnel about 8% of the time. So obviously, with Ken Dorsey, they are gonna, jump up in the 12 personnel department a little bit, probably 8% more at the 16 to 18. Could dive back from their bread and butter, and that is 11 personnel. That is, lining up with 3 receivers and a tight end and a back. Yep. That is their bread and butter. That is what Josh Allen is most comfortable with. That is what Ken Dorsey was the understudy of under, Brian Dable, learning a little bit because he probably knew he was going to be the offensive coordinator at a point in time. So, that's probably, the main scheme we will see out of Ken Dorsey and Josh Allen. But again, you will see a little more 12 personnel. Maybe you see a little more 21 personnel. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what type of offense Ken Dorsey is going to implement. Obviously, it's still going to be 11 personnel. Everyone, watching and listening, like, it's still going to be 11 personnel. We're not going to just shade over to 10. We're not going to shade over to 22. Like, we're not doing that. It's going to be 11 with a little bit of 12, and a little. Yeah, this will be a little bit of a mixture, and definitely a little bit more of a creative offense than we were used to, I believe.
It's going to be a garbage plate, if you will.
Yeah, a Rochester garbage plate. Yeah,
there you have it. A garbage plate of an offense. That's terrible.
And I have to say too, the Bills at some points, more so later on in this season than earlier, they were running some 12 personnel against some defenses with bigger fronts, and it never went their way really because Tommy Sweeney just wasn't the guy that they needed him to be. Not that he's terrible. I think he's got a long way to go before he gets meaningful reps. But it was just Knox and Sweeney, and that was it at the tight end position. You got Gilliam, who you can kind of throw in there, but they really used him mostly as a fullback. So I think they're going to run a little bit more 12 personnel. I think that opens it up in so many different ways because OJ Howard can be a blocker that Tommy Sweeney couldn't, and he can be a pass catcher that Tommy Sweeney couldn't. He's better in both of those areas, I think. So it's going to add a ton of versatility. But really, I think the best thing about the OJ Howard signing is Dawson Knox is going to be able to breathe because some of those games when Dawson's having a good game, you can tell how gassed he is by the end because he's running every single tight end route because he's got no one to sub in for him. So I think that's going to be huge for him to keep him fresh and to have those guys, being able to switch out with each other is going to be really, really good for Dawson.
That's a great point. And Claire, before you get out of here, because I wanted you for some time, but I got a topic I got to bring up because I think you will give me some great insight on this, right? But before we do, I got Steven Printup says we need a top tier running back more than a cornerback. Otherwise, Josh Allen's going to be he's going to be loading up again, and that'll add up. I get what Steven's trying to say. We don't want 760 yards rushing by our quarterback once again. That's tough on his body over time. I never used to be in that camp. Use your dogs and put your dogs on the field, but that dog is an expensive dog. You got to treat him real good with some kid gloves, right? You got to make him last and for us to get that damn Lombardi and raise that Lombardi. But running back, like Clay said earlier, man, there's some good talent in here. We can get one very good one in the second if we need to. But Mr. Beane, man, Mr. Beane is unpredictable sometimes, man. So you might trade down and say, nah, I don't like any of these guys in the first round. And then we've got multiple picks in the second. So maybe that's a route that we can take. So Clay, I gotta get to this right now, and I'm gonna put you guys on the spot for both you and Evan, right? So I have a segment called the POP. Are you a problem or are you part of the process, right? And we've got some cornerbacks on this team, and obviously the number one process player on this cornerback squad, DBs, we'll say defensive backs, is Trey White. We know Trey White is part of the process. He got the bag. He got paid. We're gonna leave him alone, right? Levi Wallace is gone. We can't scapegoat Levi Wallace anymore. We always like to, Levi this, Levi that. Levi's gone. All right. So Teron Johnson, Are you guys in on Taron Johnson? He's that dude. Is he part of the process?
Absolutely, yeah. Taron Johnson's a fantastic corner. I didn't have a lot of faith in him early in his career. I liked the way that he attacked the ball and would hit guys. He was a big hitter always, but he wasn't great in coverage, and he has improved so greatly in that field. He's very solid in coverage now. I think he's one of the better slot corners in the league. Absolutely a process guy.
Evan, I assume you agree.
Yeah, same here. Taron Johnson is definitely part of the process. His ability to play in this nickel defense and really kind of take away a linebacker in this defense so we can run the 2 linebacker system is huge and beneficial to what Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier run. And you got to give credit to Taron Johnson. Like Clay mentioned, he's always ready to attack the ball, and he's just been improving in coverage since he was, brought to Buffalo just a few years back.
All right. So this is perfect. So now help me out with this now. This is where it's going to get a little dicey now. Cam Lewis. Evan, start with Cam Lewis. Is he part of the process, the UB product? Is he part of this process? Or are you ready to just, I've seen enough, man. Look, let's drop some guys in.
Yeah. As of right now, I think he's part of the process only because of what the certainty he has at the cornerback position. Tre'Davious White isn't coming back fully healthy. In my opinion, there's a glaring hole at the cornerback 2 position right now. Now, I'm not saying Cam Lewis is going to be your cornerback 2, but if you have to shell in Dane Jackson at the CB2 spot, you would like to have a guy who's been here for the past couple seasons in Cam Lewis and is willing to, bounce back and forth between the practice squad and your active roster. Again, if we had that stability at the cornerback 2 spot, I'd probably throw, the UB product Cam Lewis in the problem. But as of right now, he's part of the process.
All right, Clay. Process problem.
I like Cam Lewis, honestly. I like the way that he's played when he's seen the field. He's always overperformed, in my opinion. Sure, our expectations might not be that high for him, but he's always outperformed them, in my opinion. So I like the way that he plays, and I don't think I want him to be starting this season. With Trey White not being on the field right away. If it's just him and Dane, that's kind of scary. And I know that both of those guys can hold their own, but
it's not ideal.
No, definitely not ideal, especially, you've got great safeties behind him and all that, but yeah, it's you probably not going to be the number 1 pass defense like you were last year for those first few weeks, if those are your 1 and 2.
I got King Cam says, how about we just sign a cornerback instead of relying on a rookie if we even get one, which then is a good point. But you have some rookies that can come in and be elite right off the bat. Nick McLeod. I don't know. I've seen good things from Nick. See, I want to rub my neck too, but like I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So let's go. Let's start with Clay. Clay, Nick McLeod, man. What problem or process?
I think for now process, and that's just because he's a young guy. There was someone that they liked. I think he was the one that got taken away from the practice squad, correct? But I think the Falcons or someone like that took him to their practice squad, and we were able to get him back. Thankfully, I liked him though. He impressed me. He was one of the guys that stood out at times in the preseason last year. But once again, he's not going to be a guy that's going to get to see the field a lot. I think even, until the end of his rookie deal or whatever. I don't even know if he's still on that technically, but pretty much his time here is going to be as a guy who can fill in. And when he does, I don't know. I don't know if we've seen enough of him against top tier wide receivers to know just how good he is, but he's he would get burned a few times. So he's there as depth, but
there's depth.
I don't really want to see him on the field.
So he's part of the problem.
Yeah. I guess in that case, I would say problem.
And listen, being part of the problem is not a bad thing. It's just that we have process guys, right? Problem just means that I'm not really in on him, and if they let him go tomorrow, you're like, meh. It was good while you're here. I got Tim Harris and Elijah Griffith. Are you guys in on these young guys? Or are you just like, I'm not. I don't care.
I mean, I'll be honest. From what I've seen from Elijah Griffin, he's had his ups and downs. I think he's a player that will be around here for at least the next 2 seasons, whether that's just, sitting on the practice squad or maybe he does get a call up. He's not the biggest corner. He is a little skinnier. But again, looking at the way that the Bills cornerback room is right now, you really just want to have that depth and certainty from players who have been in your system for a year or 2. I don't really see him as part of our process long term. He's a problem long term, but technically he's a process for at least this year.
Okay. Tim Harris, I'm not even familiar, to be honest with you, straight with Tim. But because I see him as depth, and I think that we're going to be addressing the cornerback room quite early in the draft, I'll say Tim for now is a problem. Not because I don't know anything personally about him. I just don't know anything about him. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Let's go to the defensive backfield. We're gonna go to the safety room. Now, this is where it's been a little tricky. I like Jaquan Johnson. I still think he's a good part of this defense, special teams as well. I think he's process. Are you in on Jaquan Johnson as process?
I'm a Jaquan Johnson guy. I love him. I think, I think it showed how much the coaching staff thought of him. I can't remember who got injured last year. It might have been Micah got hurt for a game or something like that. But Jaquan was the guy that they put in, and he played well. And I think that shows the confidence the coaching staff has in a guy like that to be able to step into very big shoes and still be able to perform and do a pretty good job at it. So I like Johnson. He's not Micah Hyde or Poyer, but I still think he could be a starting caliber safety on another team if he were somewhere else for all we know.
I think I'm going to agree with that. Evan, are you in on Jaquan Johnson?
Yeah, I'm definitely in on Jaquan Johnson. Obviously, he's going to bring, high caliber play at the special team spot. Yep. And, like Clay mentioned, Micah Hyde went down for a little bit last year, and Jaquan Johnson stepped right in. And I wouldn't say filled his role, but he was capable enough to, play a few snaps there. And again, when you have the safety tandem in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, you're going to want a quality backup, because if one of those guys do go down, you're going to want a quality player to step into that role and perform. And Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott, Leslie Frazier obviously trust Jaquan Johnson enough to keep him around here. And in my opinion, he is part of the process.
And I love that. I'm going to give you guys two players before you guys get out of here. Damar Hamlin, I like a lot. I'm in on Damar Hamlin. Josh Thomas. That name has been floating up there, and they say, don't sleep on Josh Thomas, man. He's a really good player. Are we keeping him depth-wise? There's only so much guys we can keep at the safety position. So what are your thoughts on the Josh Thomas and Damar Hamlin and Sirron Neal? Obviously, he got paid, so he's going to be around. So Thomas and Hamlin, what are your thoughts on that? Clay?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I really like Damar Hamlin. I think he's got a lot of potential. I love that the Pittsburgh defense, they run a very similar system to what Sean McDermott likes, and that's why he scooped up Dane Jackson in the late round. That's why he liked Damar Hamlin in a later round, is because they're plug-and-play guys right away who can come in and play in that system. I love the way he attacks the line of scrimmage in run fill. Very, it's Jordan Poyer is a guy that does that really well, and I think it's good to have a backup guy who also is able to fly in there and fill the hole like that. It's a similar story, with it's Josh Thomas, right? That's Josh Thomas, yeah. With him, it's tough because I don't really know if we've seen him enough in coverage to know how good he is there. Yes. He was fantastic in run fill though in last preseason. I think he was a guy that kind of showed that he's worthy of at least keeping around to monitor for a little bit to see how he develops. And I mean, the way that safeties develop under Sean McDermott, he could be very good for all we know. So I think that he's a guy that has potential, but right now I wouldn't say, he's definitely not a guy that's going to see the field. He's probably going to be a practice squad guy because I think you've got two pretty solid backup safeties in Jaquan Johnson and Damar Hamlin.
I like that. I got a question for Evan. Evan, I don't know if you saw my man Clay's tweet. He says that Beane, he wouldn't be surprised if Beane double dipped at the cornerback position, rounds 1 and 2. You think could you see something like that happening?
Yeah, obviously, Sean. I don't think it's a horrible idea, but looking at Tre'Davious White's injury, I'm hoping and praying that he comes back as the same player he once was. But you can never have enough depth at the cornerback position, and obviously, with the way that the AFC and the AFC West in general is loading up, you want to really load up on the back end in the secondary. And looking at it, Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane really haven't been prone to drafting cornerbacks early in drafts, besides Tre'Davious White.
Right.
But I don't think it's a bad idea. I'm kind of on board with it. I wouldn't be surprised, and I wouldn't be mad if Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane took that approach. Yeah. Like I obviously we did it last year with Boogie Basham and, Greg Rousseau.
Yep.
And I just wouldn't be surprised if we did it. Like, I think it would be great for the team.
I like it. I got a super chat coming in from my man, the ref. He says, hey, should we give Diggs more reps in the slot? He has great elusiveness and run after the catch. I feel he's slightly limited just playing at the number 1 spot. In my opinion, I mean, with the way that Coach Dable's offense ran, like, you weren't just X or Y. You were everywhere. I need you in the slot. I need you outside. I need you here. I need you. Like, you needed to know all positions just in case. And that was the way these guys run, this versatility. You need to be able to do more than just one thing. You can't just do one thing. So it's not that you can just place him in the slot. He will be in the slot here and there, but he'll be moved all over. I mean, we have to take advantage of a mismatch, or you have somebody following. Who knows? I mean, you saw what we did to the Miami Dolphins. They had 2 really good corners, and we moved. I think it was Ian Digbo. I can't remember his name, but
first round pick that year.
He got torched, right? Because they had the nerve to leave him and Stephon Diggs one-on-one. How dare you? And we will take full advantage of that. So I'm hoping that Coach Dorsey knows how to take advantage of these one-on-ones and these matchups, and there's great communication between the two. But to me, that's the way I look at it. I don't know if you guys agree with that. You guys want to leave at number 1 spot, or are they multiple? I mean, we both know that, right?
Yeah, and they move him all. They move all the wide receivers all over the place. But as far as getting him more snaps in the slot, I think maybe if they run a little more 12 personnel, we could see that. We could see Davis on the outside and Diggs on the inside. And I think out of 12 personnel, that's definitely something we could see a little bit more now that we can run it. But yeah, really, other than that, you'd want another solid outside guy that you can put out there outside of Diggs, besides Gabe Davis. So, if they were to draft an outside guy, then yeah, I could definitely see you putting Diggs in the slot a little more.
I totally agree with that. Silas Whittle comes in and says, hey, Cam is a backup slot DB. We need a cornerback early in this draft, ideally McCreary, because he can probably start immediately and not embarrass himself. Wow, he thinks that if Cam Lewis goes out there, he's going to embarrass himself. I think that Cam is good enough that he can hold his own. He's held his own in before, like when he's come in the game. So it's not that he's going to embarrass himself, but it's just not ideal. Like Clay said, it's not ideal to have Cam and Dane Jackson holding it down. I know that we definitely upgraded our pass rush, so that helps. But I mean, I'm not ready to say that Cam can't do it, but I'm not advocating for it either. Which brings me to a question for y'all. Which do you find it? It's an ongoing debate. Clay, I'll start with you. Which is more important to you, to cover or to pass rush? What's the more important vital part of the game?
That's a good question, and I think that's probably very philosophy based as far as defensive scheme goes. But I don't know. It's so hard to say, because as long as one of them is good, the other one will be better
for sure.
So if your pass rush is great, your corners don't have to cover for as long. If your corners are great and they can cover and your safeties can cover, then your pass rushers have more time to pass rush. So I think it's tough to say which one is necessarily better. I think I'm going to say, because it's a passing league, I'm going to have to say coverage, and go with the secondary, because if you can give those pass rushers a little bit of extra time, which I think they need in today's NFL, especially since the quarterbacks like to get the ball out so fast. If you take away that first read, maybe that second read, you're probably going to get more pressures and more sacks.
So that tells me that you're ready to draft a corner 1 and 2 right off the bat. I love that answer. My man, Evan, are you team pass rush or team coverage?
Both are definitely important, but I'm kind of team pass rush, and I'm only team pass rush only because if you look at the last few Super Bowls, the Rams, what did they do? They got to Joe Burrow, they sacked him a lot. What did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do to Patrick Mahomes? They got to him, sacked him a lot. Yep. The 49ers don't have a great quarterback. What did they do to get to the Super Bowl? They rushed the passer very well. They didn't have an elite corner that year. They had a guy in Richard Sherman who was on the opposite side of 30, but still played very well due to the fact that they had 4 first-rounders on the defensive line. Now, it's very beneficial to have, the Buffalo Bills secondary and other elite secondaries like that will make the pass rush look a little better than they really are. But if you have a very good pass rush paired up with a decent or above average secondary, that secondary can easily become elite in many people's eyes. But now we have an elite secondary with an elite pass rush that I feel like can become elite. So you're pairing the two together, and I think we're going to see some big dividends with the Buffalo Bills this year.
I think so too, man. And I've wavered back and forth. I mean, this is not an easy. There's no really right answer. You know what I mean? Like Chris said, if one's doing great, then the other one's going to benefit, and vice versa. But with the line that we just upgraded with Von Miller, Tim Settle, Quan Jones, you got Greg Rousseau going into his second year, Boogie Basham. Like, we really upgraded this freaking line, man. So I'm hoping that we fully take full advantage and close out. Because the problem was we would pressure. We were one of the top teams in pressuring, but we didn't close. We didn't close enough. So we need to close out in these tougher games. I got a super chat coming from my man Scott Blakely from Chi-Town. He comes and says, "Hey, I'll bet you, damn it, you and they keep blasting me because they say I always bring up the 13 seconds. And here comes Scott Blakely with 13 seconds. So here it is. I bet you 13 seconds of your life Beane trains up and gets a stud cornerback. Remember, practice squad is reduced to 12 from 16 this year. No room. Great freaking point. We got 9 picks. So he's going to have to do his wizardry like he did to get up to number 7 to get our guy Josh Allen, but he had to make some moves to get up there. So does he have it in him again to move up? I don't know. How far would you have to move up? Like now, if you're Brandon Beane, in order to get someone that's worthwhile, you would have to get into a top 15. That's tough. And we don't have a player to give away. I mean, maybe we do. Maybe AJ Epinesa is part of that. I mean, we're kind of, I don't know, man. How do you guys feel about the move up, and how far would you have to move up, and what would you have to give up to get into contention for a top corner?
Yeah, I kind of want to touch on this really quick. I'm pretty sure New England has the 22nd overall pick. Now, they don't have a number 1 receiver right now, and they lost their number 1 corner in free agency. New England might be a team that might want to move up in the draft, right?
Okay.
And if you're the Buffalo Bills, I think you would want to move up in the draft and not let New England get that player that you might want on your board.
Oh boy.
So again, like I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills moved up to, the 19th or 20th spot, take away, New England getting a potential new number 1 corner or a potential new number 1 wide receiver. Again, just a thought, but that would take a little bit of draft capital. Yeah, you never know.
Somebody just told me I'm high and we don't have the draft capital. Listen, man, Brandon B. Listen, how many? I don't know if you guys remember how many picks did we have when we traded up to get to Josh Allen. I don't remember, but we moved around and did some things, right? So anything is possible. Like, look at the Saints. The Saints were like over the cap by like 80 grand, 80 million, and they're under the cap now. There's things that are possible, folks. But yeah, man, I'm gonna leave it at that, folks. And first of all, thank you, Clay, for coming in. I mean, I said I lied to you. I said you're gonna be for 20 minutes, and here you are for an hour. So I appreciate your time.
Of course.
Yeah, but I will ask you this, fellas. The excitement is super high with who we brought onto this team. Von Miller being the big name out there. I need to know this. Is there an underrated player signing that we've done that nobody's really talking about that will help us gain a lot of momentum this year? Is there somebody that stands out to you guys right now? Is it Duke Johnson? What is it? Who is it for you guys? Evan, I'll start with you before we get out of here.
All right. In my opinion, it's Roger Saffold. I think when he was first brought here, everyone was like kind of hyped up. Hey, we got this, this new guard from Tennessee who played on the Rams and was under our new offensive line coach, Kramer. And, Roger Saffold is really good in the zone rushing scheme, the zone rushing blocking scheme. And, that's something that Kramer is going to want to implement to this offense. And, I'm pretty sure Saffold's playing left guard, right?
He's left guard.
Yeah, he's a left guard.
Yeah. So he's playing left guard. So obviously you have Dawkins, Saffold, and Morse. They're going to really try to implement the zone running game, through that left side of the offensive line. And I think that could really benefit not only the Josh Allen design runs, but, Singletary, Duke Johnson, potentially Zach Moss, if he's still here, maybe a little trickery with Isaiah McKenzie in the backfield and run that Deebo Samuel type role. So again, just adding Roger Saffold is only going to make your offensive line better, especially in the running game.
Clay, who's the one move that we made that you're like, I'm excited for that one, and this one that's going to make a big difference?
Yeah, Saffold would have been my pick as well, but to keep it different, I'll go with my second choice, which is probably DaQuan Jones. And to me, the one tech is such an important role in this defense, and especially to guys like Tremaine Edmonds and Ed Oliver. That one tech is going to be very, very important for them. So to get a guy like that who could come in and start day one, especially when Star has issues staying on the field. Or did we cut Star? I can't even remember. We cut Star. Yeah. So with Star being gone and Harrison Phillips being gone, which I was very sad about. I liked the way he was improving, especially at the end of last season. But yeah, the one tech position I think was the biggest thing that they needed to address first, and they did that. So, and yeah, getting Tim Settle behind him as well, who is very young, played with Tremaine Edmonds in college. Wow. Those two guys I think are, they still have potential to be even better than they are right now. So, but yeah, DaQuan Jones I think is going to make a big impact.
You know what? I'm gonna jump in, and because we just signed this individual, and he's pretty pricey at that, but I'm pretty impressed the fact that we were able to get Case Keenum and trade for him. I mean, he's pretty hefty at $3.5 million. He had to restructure, but nice to have a backup quarterback that's got game experience in big games at that. Real nice with Stephon Diggs, so it'll be interesting to see. What are your thoughts on this Case Keenum signing? Are you guys for it? Did you guys have somebody else in mind that you guys would rather? And how do you guys feel about it?
I mean, it doesn't get much better for backup quarterbacks in the NFL than
sure.
Case Keenum. I mean, he's a fringe starter at some teams. So to have that kind of a guy, it's a lot like having Mitch Trubisky, who is also a fringe starter. Having guys like that behind you is it's very good insurance in case something happens to your quarterback who does take a decent amount of hits. So, I think it's a great idea to get someone in like that, especially because you have such a talented roster. Even if the quarterback goes down, you can still find ways to win games without that elite quarterback. It's not going to be as easy, but Case Keenum's a guy that can win games.
Listen, I'm with you, man. I was surprised that we're getting Evan. Are you in on Case?
Especially I'm very in on. Yeah, I'm very in on Case Keenum. And, the one thing that I really love about the Case Keenum signing is how hyped up Stephon Diggs was for bringing in Case Keenum from Cleveland. Obviously, we all know the Minneapolis Miracle, Case Keenum to Stephon Diggs. That connection, was there at the end of the game to win them that playoff game. But, bringing in Case Keenum, it's not the worst. It's not a hefty contract. You're not paying him, out of your pocket, to really break your salary cap there. But, I think it's a decent contract. You're bringing in a guy who knows his role as a backup, is capable enough to win a game if he needs to, if for some reason Josh goes down. And I just think he's a great guy to have in the room. Like, I know, people express that about certain quarterbacks, he's a great guy to have in the room, but Case Keenum really is one of those guys that's just a great guy to have in the room and really pair alongside Josh Allen. And he can teach Josh some stuff as well. So I think it's a great trade for Brandon Beane.
Well, they love the Quan Jones. Silas Widow comes in and says, "Hey, I got to super chat this, man. The Quan Jones super underrated because he may be the fix to our inefficiencies against the run and should keep our linebackers clean." I do not like the fact that we brought Mac Barkley back. I don't know. I'm like, why? I understand why, but I was like, was it necessary? Clay, are you?
It definitely was. It wasn't necessary.
It
I mean,
wasn't.
it's a culture signing. I think
Maybe.
everyone on the offense like Matt Barkley and his wife are both wonderful people. So
Mhm.
to have them around again is going to be really good for culture, which is very, very important to this football team. The culture and how that locker room behaves and interacts with each other. Inside and outside the facilities. So they're definitely going to be good for morale and for any of those other new teammates that are coming around. Specifically in the offense.
Yep.
Those are going to be people that they're going to be able to spend time with and get a lot of perspective from. So as far as I really think it's fully a culture signing. I don't think there's we saw him beat the Dolphins, cool, and the Jets once, but yeah, it's Case Keenum's a much better option if Josh goes down.
Bobby B comes in and says Shaq Lawson was an unnecessary signing as well. Are you guys in agreement with that? I think it was overblown. I think I was like, did we really need him?
I mean, if Addison and Hughes aren't coming back, you need somebody there, and I think Shaq Lawson's a good run stopper. So I'm happy to have a guy in there that can go in on the running downs. I wish he was a little bit better of a pass rusher. It's not really his forte, but he likes Buffalo, and he's a guy that played his best football in Buffalo as well. So I'm not completely against it, but yeah, it might not have been necessary.
Yeah, I think I when we talked about the Bills winning the division, I said 90%. I think you're right. 99% is about is about accurate. All right, fellas. Listen, I thank you guys for coming in. Clay, let the people know what next projects you're going to be bringing to BF and what they should be looking forward to, because I know I'm looking forward to. So let them know what you're bringing forward to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to take a look at some of the free agents that we brought in. So I'm going to be doing, probably going to be posting some shorter breakdowns on Twitter. So make sure you go follow me over there at Clay Troia. So want to look at some of the free agents. I want to look at the corner draft class as well, because I do think that that's someone that they're going to go for in the early rounds. So those are guys that I'm going to check out. Those I might do some longer format film session for those here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube and Facebook channels. So watch out for those as well. But other than that, I mean, a couple of things here and there. If anyone has any players that become hot topics that I want to look into, I might do that as well. But yeah, some more film in the works here and on the way. Love it
a lot. I mean, it's good to see good to see your pretty face, man. You got a haircut just for the occasion. I love it. It's a mad respect. I love that a lot. Ev, talk to me, man. What do you got? What do you got cooking on the old Snapchat and Tiki Talk? I'm joking. I know what it is. I wanted to act like I was an old man. Tiki Talk, is that what they call it?
Yeah. I'm still on Twitter, still on TikTok. You guys can find me on Twitter at EvanH716 here, TikTok at NFL Analyst. But now I'm on the radio. at my college. I have a radio station that I
about
am running every Monday and Wednesday. It's a local Buffalo State radio station for anyone in the Buffalo area. It's WBNY 91.3 FM. You can catch it on some of the radio apps, and it'll be posted on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well afterwards. I'm pretty sure Monday we go 2 to 4, and Wednesdays we go from about 12:30 to 3 o'clock. We might have a couple Bills players coming on soon, so anyone in the area that wants to listen, definitely for sure hop on that. It's a good talk, good Bills talk.
Go ahead, Evan. Get on the radio, my man. Good for
Yeah.
you. Listen, go ahead and support my man Evan on that radio. He's gonna be radio jockeying and are you solo, or do you have a co-host? Or are you by yourself?
So right now we have about three guest hosts. The sports director at Buffalo State right now will be graduating. So me and this other kid that's there right now will be taking it over as kind of a dual thing. But sometimes I probably will run my own show.
Nice.
But most definitely it's a great listen. We accept callers and stuff. So if anyone here is listening and wants to thigh it up,
Yeah. Are you able to do that?
When did Luch get in the chat?
Of course.
I do it really quick?
You have to. You have no choice.
All right.
We can give you the full screen. You need music? Let me give you. I can't disrespect you like that. I gotta give you music. Give me a second, man. I gotta give you
music.
And you better have rhythm when you do this. You got me? You better.
I haven't done this, man. I haven't done this in a minute.
I can't believe you're doing this. Let me give you something, boy. Go ahead, man. Jump in there.
Right.
Yo, he gave you the jazz fingers. Yes. All right, fellas. Listen, that's our time. Evan got comfortable doing that. I appreciate you, Clay.
I want 40% of that donation.
Clay, I appreciate you coming in, man. I'm looking forward to the film study. Evan, I appreciate you as well. Fellas, you guys have a great night, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side. Peace to everybody, and we'll catch you all, man. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it for us. We are out of here. I enjoy doing these. I enjoy bringing my guys on. BF he's got way more planned, and I love the film study. I'm waiting for the film study because I need to learn. And my man Evan is my man Clay is all about that, man. So I appreciate y'all. So until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side. It's your boy, and I'll catch y'all. And until next time, we gone. Let's go, folks, and we'll catch you. We out.